In today's video, we will be going through the 2017 horror action movie, The Mummy. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. In the present-day London, construction workers discover the tomb of a Crusader knight, who was buried with an Egyptian ruby in 1127 AD, during the Crusade War at the Islamic world. The discovery is soon taken over by a group led by the doctor in charge of relic protection. Doctor is obsessed with the finding because he knows from history that the Crusade soldiers did bring back some big secrets unknown to the ordinary. It reveals a hidden history of the Princess Amenet, an ancient Egyptian, who's supposed to be the only heir to the kingdom at the beginning, but expected to lose her inheritance due to the new birth of a prince. The princess made an evil deal with the deity Set, so as to regain her inheritance to the whole kingdom with a magic dagger from Set. She then murdered her father, the king, and the little newborn princess. In exchange, the princess had to summon the deity Set into a young man's body by use of the magic dagger. However, before the resurrection was finished, the princess got shot and controlled by the coming soldiers. She's later mummified alive under the ground, unknown for thousands of years. At some present day, Sergeant Nick and his fellow find their way following a stolen map to an abandoned relic in Iraq, but they caught up with Iraq rebels. They try hard to run for life under the heavy gunfire. Luckily backed up by airstrike from the US military, they both get survived from the rebels. To their surprise, then something big underground appears before them as a result of the airstrike. The coming US soldiers take control of this area soon, and Nick gets slapped on his face by the archaeologist Jenny, who blames Nick for stealing her map. But they later form a team to search down, hoping to get something big and unknown. After they go down and search for a while, Jenny smells something unusual with such a huge tomb. Built underground and submerged with mercury, eager to know for whom this unusual tomb is built for. She refuses to retreat immediately once Nick cracks off one of the chains with his gun. A coffin-like box is raised up from under the mercury with numerous spiders swarming out from the dark trigger. At that right time, when Nick stares at the face mask on the coffin, he gets an illusion of the princess, who seems to turn to him far in the ancient desert. The evil coffin is pulled out to the ground for the first time and loaded onto a military plane for its journey to Britain. During the flight, the fellow begins to show some strange symptoms of being bit in the tomb by the spiders. Seems like he's been cursed by the previous tomb visit. He's dangling and approaches the coffin trying to cut it open. He even stabs the sergeant to death while being stopped. During the chaos, Nick has to kill his best fellow just to keep everybody safe on the plane. Nevertheless, the plane later loses one of its engines by accident, and to be worse, the swarming crows attack the plane from nowhere, causing it to crash, killing the crew except Jenny, who escapes out by only the left parachute Nick gives her. Nick instead falls down to the ground deadly with the plane pieces. Fast forward to a local morgue, where Nick returns to life with several dead bodies beside the fellow's ghost appears and tells Nick he has been cursed by the princess Amenet, who seeks to use Nick as a vessel for the summon of Set. Later, the team also learns that the princess's mummy escaped from the air crash, but they never know the mummy is now feeding on people for energy to regenerate her body. Jenny, as an archaeologist, reveals to Nick more about the dagger and the ruby attached on it. The two were stored separately in secret different places. Well, at that time, from pieces of illusionary images of the mummy. Nick is convinced the back-to-life princess has recovered the dagger and turns the dead into zombies. Nick wants to ask Jenny for help, but Jenny feels very reluctant to trust that until Nick shows her the actual trails of the mummy from the illusionary images. Led into a silent and dark monastery, Nick gets caught by zombies controlled by the mummy princess. She then overwhelms Nick and takes out the dagger, attempting to summon Set to the present world. But she's disappointed by the missing ruby, without which the resurrection can't be finished. Right at that time, Jenny breaks in uninvited and distracts the princess's attack. While Nick strives to get rid of the zombies and stabs the princess with a dagger, freeing Jenny from the princess's dead kiss. In the night following, the two flee out into the wood where they're cornered by the princess and zombies. Right in their deep despair, however, the mummy princess is soon taken control by a follow-up team, and Nick is knocked over and brought to a secret base, where samples of unnatural demons and monsters are laying everywhere. The base is led by a doctor in charge dedicated to hunting supernatural threats. It seems like the doctor knows well about the Egyptian method to contain the power of the mummy princess, by use of mercury injected into her body rather than stop the resurrection of Set. However, the doctor intends to allow Set to possess Nick completely, believing that this will render Set vulnerable, which pisses Nick and Jenny off. They get to know the doctor is also possessed by some kind of evil power. He's just turned into a dark evil due to a lack of medicine effect and begins to attack Nick. Fortunately, after the fight, Nick grabs the medicine shot and cools the doctor back to normal. On the other side, as the search keeps on, the soldier finally locates the ruby and brings it back to the base where the princess senses its strong power. Then, through her magic power, she controls a staff with a bug who turns to shut down the mercury and destroy the power supply, which set the princess free finally from the lockdown. The set-free princess regains the dagger, later creates a huge sandstorm in London, and summons many Crusader zombies to serve her in finding out the ruby. The zombies launch attack at the soldiers who keep guard on the ruby. Nick and Jenny escape out. They are guided into the London Underground by the fellow's ghost, who instead exposes them to the coming zombie army. Meanwhile, the princess has taken the ruby and attaches it to the dagger so that she can possess the power to free Set. The next minute, the princess captures Jenny and drowns her. Then the princess comes to Nick for his body. As the ideal vessel for the summon, Nick fights back and gets injured, but he still refuses to obey her. He then let her embrace him as a ruse to steal the dagger and strikes the pommel of the dagger against the floor, cracks it a little bit. As he's about to shatter it for good, the princess reminds him that the dagger could grant him the power to reverse death. He pauses for a while and looks at the dead Jenny. He then stabs himself instead. Because of cracked ruby, the dead Set is summoned and possesses Nick, but only partially. Nick, with the same power as Set, could overpower the possessed evil though. So he goes to the princess, turns on her, and uses Set's power to extract her life force. Then, he resurrects Jenny knowing the soldiers are coming for him. He says goodbye to Jenny and vanishes in the end of the story. Nick returns to the Egyptian desert together with his old fellow, who is also rescued by his power. The two set out on a new adventure, hoping to find a cure to his curse in the wild, mystery desert. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe,